Hello, today is Monday, March 23rd, 2015. Welcome to episode number 42 of the Vanguard Report. Promoting men's rights is good because it damages feminism. The real goal is not to promote men's rights, or not directly, but to damage feminism. And anything that might accomplish this or pave the way for accomplishing this is of interest to us. Remember, the Vanguard Report is not a mouthpiece for the so-called men's rights movement. We say, if you meet the men's rights movement on the road, kill it. No, not literally. But seriously, it is time for an amicable separation of functions within the activated non-feminist sector and the non-feminist revolution in general. Did you catch the word amicable? The best way to maintain amicability is to provide for elbow room. The various work groups in the factory yard need, well, they need room to swing their hammers without smashing into each other. You know what I'm saying? We are all workers in the great work, and we all have our specialized parts to play. So let's spread out and give each other some elbow room. And just as importantly, let the uninitiated public see that we are separate things, and providing for those visual buffer zones will make this easier for the general public to see this, I mean. Anyway, this week, the Monday double feature is not a double feature. It's just the Vanguard Report. Red Collar Blue Pill, the radio episode, which normally is linked back to back with us and immediately follows us, will not be playing this week. The future status of that program is still in question, but there's been some changes. And this week, it's just us here. So we have 2 hours. I don't know how much time we have. I should ask the little man behind the curtain, the one who twiddles the dials and pulls the ropes and makes things happen. James, how much time do we have tonight?
I'll tell you what, I'll be real nice, and give you the whole 2-hour time slot this time. But folks, more than likely this will not be a regular thing because, once again, we do want to get back to our double feature show. So, until further notice, we can go ahead and let Fiedelbogen run the mic.
For the next 2 hours, or whatever fraction thereof might seem appropriate.
There you go.
It'll be a good hour, and then we can slop over into the next hour a little bit. I think that's probably how we'll play it. Anyway, we got that all cleared up. I am here. I am your host, Fiedelbogen. Yeah, you know, I'm Fiedelbogen, your host. This is episode number 42 of the Vanguard Report. Not 41 like it says on the show bulletin on AVFM. I think I might have wrote 41 in there instead of 42. But no, this is episode number 42. And I am here with my fellow host, as always, Nick Redding, a true son of the Alberta Prairie. Nick, I know you got something to say to the people out there.
Hey everybody, I'm Nick Redding from Men's Rights Edmonton. You can follow us on our website, which is Men's Rights Edmonton. Our YouTube channel is Men's Rights Edmonton. You can go to our website, mensrightsedmonton.com. and you can follow us on Twitter at Men's Rights Ed. Everything that I do, including this radio show, is designed to broadcast that I am in Edmonton, and I am doing everything I can to let other activated non-feminists know that I am here and I am available for contact if you want to hang out.
Yes, I know Nick wants to bring feminism into the same disrepute as racism. He has said this to me numerous times, and that's not a bad goal. And I would also like to drain the oil out of feminism's crankcase. I would like to bring about the social death of feminism. There's just all kinds of ways that we can express our plans for feminism. We like to use non-violent metaphors, okay? Anyway, on to the program. All right. If I had to tell a neophyte just one thing about feminism, it would be this: that feminism is a lie. And if I had to tell a neophyte just one thing about feminists in particular, it would be this: that feminists lie. It is hard to exaggerate just how much lying feminists do. It's reflexive. It's like a motor function. With them, falsehood is virtually a motor function or a metabolic function or what you will. You know, it's like when you cut the tail off of a lizard and the lizard runs away, but the tail is still there, flip-flopping back and forth. Feminist lying is very much a automatic response like that flipping lizard's tail. That's just what they do. It defines feminism as a phenomenon. And you take away lying as a phenomenon, and you would no longer have feminism. You'd have something else, but it wouldn't be feminism. We believe that most feminists, more often than not, are willful and fully conscious liars. Well, me and Nick can discuss this a bit because we vary slightly on this. Anyway, but I largely agree with this. It goes beyond delusion or cognitive dissonance. They, the feminists, are dealing in falsehood, and they know it clearly in their own minds while they are doing it. And Nick, now I know you've got a couple of things to say about this, right?
I do. Sorry, technical difficulties there with the microphone. Yeah, I have a little something written out about it. Feminists lie as naturally and almost as frequently as they breathe. Anyone who's tried arguing with a feminist about the validity of feminist ideology can tell you this. It's staggering, frankly. It leaves those of us who have made a paid or unpaid career out of fighting the constant stream of lies these people tell, trying to make some kind of sense out of it all. Many people I'm proud to work with put a lot of stock in the idea that this is cognitive dissonance on the part of the feminists. That these people are so married to their beliefs that they are employing all manner of mental gymnastics, not for the purpose of deceiving others, but to reassure themselves of their own correctness in the face of contrary evidence. I am less charitable. I have not only argued with the low-level neophytes of the feminist movement, I have been on the business end of lies told by Lise Gattel, the Vice Dean of Arts at the University of Alberta, and I have argued with the feminists in my own personal life and my family. I am persuaded, after all the conflicts that I have had, that these people are not trying to reassure themselves, but rather are knowingly participating in a con job. Let me make that perfectly clear. These people are not just indoctrinated or misled or deluded. There is not one part of these people that does not know just how full of shit they are. They're not lying to themselves, they're lying to you, and they fucking know it. In 2013, Lise Gattel claimed that she wanted to debate Men's Rights Edmonton over our posters parodying the "Don't Be That Guy" campaign. But we were too cowardly. We here at Men's Rights Edmonton and A Voice for Men challenged Lise Gattel to a debate on the old Blog Talk radio show, sometimes referred to as Red Pill Radio. She declined. We then surrounded the University of Alberta with posters telling everyone how she backed down from the challenge. She then told various Edmonton news outlets that it was us who had refused to debate her. Don Iveson, who was then a mayoral candidate and is currently the mayor of Edmonton, parroted her lies. This is not a case of Dr. Gattel fooling herself. She lied through her fucking teeth and the mayor backed her up. These people lie, and they do it for power. They want the power to tell you what is true. The reasons for this are perfectly articulated by Senator Rourke in the movie Sin City, when he tells Detective Hartigan, "Power don't come from a badge or a gun. Power comes from lying. Lying big and getting the whole damn world to play along with you. Once you've got everybody agreeing with what they know and their hearts ain't true, you've got them by the balls." I cannot stress the importance of calling these people out on their lies and making damn good and sure that everyone knows these people are lying. Demonstrate, if you can, in front of as many people as possible that these individuals are knowingly obfuscating the truth. Make it known that they have no interest in the truth. Not to malign their character, but so people know that the shit they're saying doesn't have to be taken seriously on the grounds that it is a fabrication.
On the grounds that it is a fabrication. Now, Nick, do you really believe that just about every feminist out there is lying most of the time, consciously, willfully in their own minds?
Yeah. I mean, you can tell in your interactions with them, either online or in person or whatever, that like the truth, what they're saying isn't even meant to be true. Like with like a perfect example of this is when I did the anonymous reporting form for people who've been victimized by Karen Smith, and you know it was reported in both Death and Taxes and Raw Story that my real name was Eric Duckman and I was calling myself Nick Redding to sound cool. Like
I remember that, Nick.
Yeah, this is and then when they got called on it, then the people in the comment section were like, "Oh, you're fixating on details," right? Like a news media outlet is supposed to get the details right. Calling them on it is important, and when they say something that is completely untrue and they get called on it, then it's like you are in the wrong for caring about them saying shit that's actually true. Like, it is deeply ingrained into their methodology when they approach reality to not tell the fucking truth. And anybody who places value on the truth being told and is offended when that doesn't happen, they're the ones in the wrong. Not the person who just made the crazy shit up.
Well, do you think that this could have something to do with them being at the top of a social pecking order or social hierarchy in their own minds, in their own world?
Yes. Yeah. Give me a second. I do think that's what it's about. Because what they're, again, like I said in my little monologue there, is that they're not concerned with the truth. They're concerned with power, and the fact that they're concerned with power says it all. when you have social authority, you are not bound by these silly rules like logic and reason. You get to use your social status as a judge's gavel.
As basically might makes right.
Yeah. Yes. These people are chauvinists. That is exactly what it is. And I know that the term chauvinist has been co-
Used
co-
by the feminists to
collo-
mean something.
yeah, colloquialized in a way that means male on female sexism. But chauvinism means having the chauvinist ideology, the chauvinist way of life and approaching.
The word chauvinist or chauvinism long predates feminism.
Yeah, what it is it's the belief that might makes right. The belief that if you have the power to do something, then you don't have to concern yourself with the moral implications or ramifications of what you're doing. You can do it, and nobody can stop you. Therefore, go ahead.
Well, I would have to say that is very much consistent with the behavior of feminists as we have noted and observed it, studied it
Oh
for
yeah,
many years, for
oh yeah.
decades.
I mean, when Janice Fiamingo and Justin Trottier went on, they went on some program where I believe it was the Agenda with Steve Paikin, where they were sitting opposite a couple of feminist professors who were, uh, entering the conversation via satellite. And one of the professors there, I mean, they were saying things like they were taking a lot of pride in the truncation of of Fiamingo's speech and saying, oh well, if you can say you still have freedom of speech, but you're going to have to face consequences. Tee hee hee. Like, oh well, our protests may have truncated your freedom of speech, but you're getting all this coverage now because of it. And they're sitting there smiling like the cat that got the fucking cream because they know they can sit there and lie to your fucking face. They can tell you, yeah, we truncated your rights. But who are you going to go to tell? The cops? There's no punishment for these people. And they know it. And they sit there, and once you finally nail them down and you prove that they're lying and that they are using force to deprive you of your constitutionally guaranteed rights, they sit there and
Doesn't make a scratch on them. Doesn't make a dent on them.
smile at you and they laugh to the corners of their mouth because they know that not a goddamn thing is going to happen to them.
Yeah, that's
And
my
so
that's right.
attempting to seem reasonable, attempting to talk reasonably to them has just been one giant snipe hunt from the beginning.
That, and I think additionally, they know that the majority of the public out there doesn't know the real facts behind the case. The majority of the public out there doesn't know what's going on.
And a good section of the people who have been made aware of it have already been cowed into submission one way or another.
Well, temporarily, we hope. They're sitting in silence, biding their time, and waiting for the signal to come out again. That's what I like to think. Anyway, that's the non-feminist breakout. So, I'm going to disagree with you, Nick, slightly, or differ with you slightly here. I still think there are a fair number of feminists out there who are genuinely cognitively dissonant. I really do. I don't think every last one of them is a willful, conscious liar, every minute of the day. There's plenty of them out there.
Well, but I mean, when you get these nice ones that you're talking about, and if you corner them on a certain issue, why?
They don't have to be nice necessarily. They can be nice or not nice. But my point is a lot of them really are suffering under cognitive dissonance.
Okay, but why? Why is that?
Well, The mechanisms of cognitive dissonance are much the same with feminists as they are with other human beings, so I would imagine that the case is similar. Of course, yes, I think I see what you're driving at here. That at some level of their minds, they must know that they are living a lie or expressing a lie.
I mean,
And
man,
they're
like,
struggling with the realization, or more precisely, to keep the realization down with a
well,
lid
they're,
on it.
they're they're struggling. They're struggling with great ease. I mean, you've been there when I've told a feminist that Canadian men have fewer legal rights than Canadian women. I mean, that is some powerful cognitive dissonance when they go, well, yeah, but do you mean legal rights or like social expectations?
But wait a minute, let's not put down to villainy what can, in many cases, be attributed to sheer stupidity, or in this case, maybe shallowness. I mean, I think people can be just that shallow, just that glib. Noisy waters don't run deep.
Well, you know what? In my opinion, that stupidity, that shallowness, that glibness, that amounts to villainy.
Villainy it may be, but still there's a fine distinction, a fine but important distinction to be made between uh, being a willful, knowing, conscious liar, in the fullness of your own self-awareness at every second, and just being shallow and not knowing it. The point being, or the differentiation being, the matter of consciousness, of the awareness in your conscious mind from moment to moment that you are spreading a falsehood. You're telling something that is not true.
Yeah, is there mens rea? Is there the guilty mind?
Mens rea, yeah, that would be a good word for it.
Uh, um, I
And
think
I think in many cases, yes, there is mens rea. I think they're just that arrogant and just that drunk. I don't mean alcohol drunk, but just that drunk that they do that. And somewhere in the back of their mind, there is a rationale for why they're doing it. Some kind of ends justifies the means thing. But yes, I do agree that a great many of the feminists out there are lying willfully, knowingly, with malice aforethought in their minds while they're doing it. But go on.
well, I mean, how like given in the current climate, when there is such an opposition to feminist theory, um, what uh, like it how far can the excuse of cognitive dissonance take them when they go into comment sections and they argue with people? We've seen it a lot, right? We've seen them arguing with people in we've done it ourselves. We know that they're really not stopping because there's so many of them. When you show them, like with the example of the just give me a sec. We like with the example of telling them that there are two legal rights in Canada that Canadian women have that Canadian men do not, and automatically they try to find something else to justify it. It goes a little bit further than like when their whole argument is that they're striving towards equality, and you show them that women have more rights on the books already, and
Then they use the fluidity of the concept of equality in some way.
they find some bizarre fucking justification for it, for continuing to push the power of women in spite of the fact that men obviously have fewer legal rights on the books. Because in my opinion, that demonstrates that they don't care about what they're saying being true. This is another example of these people not even giving the faintest fuck about the truth.
Mm-hmm. And Nick, I think you and I have discussed at from one time from one moment, or at various times, that as time goes on and as certain counter-feminist knowledge begins to propagate out into the world and becomes more and more generally known, there has to come a point at which they cannot any longer plead ignorance. Okay, so your theory that they are all conscious liars, basically it's like wine, it gets better with age.
Well, it gets more and more verified, and that this is the perfect reason. This is a perfect reason to keep on arguing with them. Some people will tell you not to argue with feminists at all. That it's just a waste of time. No. Make sure that they know that they're full of shit, right? And if I think enough, more and more people keep doing that with YouTube channels and the like, making sure that these people know that they have been caught telling a falsehood.
And significantly, we draw spectators in.
Yeah, and there's a constant trend where they get caught telling lies, and the more that this occurs, the more obvious it will generally be that they are knowingly full of shit.
And they don't care about it, and they'll keep doing it, and nothing's going to stop them. Well, short of a post-argumentalist approach. A post-argumentalist approach to the entire conflict, just going up against an aggressor power and shutting down that aggressor power and saying the time for argument is past, the time for sweet reason and compromise and dialogue, all of that is off the table now because you, the aggressor power, have abundantly shown the rest of the world that you're not capable of any of this. And the more the time goes on, the more and more justified this kind of post-argumentalist thinking becomes. And Nick, I'm still going to say that a certain number of feminists are in a state of cognitive dissonance, especially the young, naive ones, and the old, naive, idealistic ones. So you got the young, naive ones, the old, naive ones. I mean, there is a certain number out there that really don't think they're lying, and they really think that they're, preaching something good. But I would have to say that a damn big segment of the feminist population is composed of willful, conscious liars, and that as time goes on, it's going to become more and more difficult for anybody to plead cognitive dissonance or ignorance or anything of that sort. So I'm with you, Nick, about 4/5 of the way here, and I think we can work with that. Anyway, it's been an interesting conversation. Let's move right along here. I'm going to share some links with you and talk about things off of the internet like we very often do. Cue number 1. That's on your cue list. Cue number 1. This concerns the billboard that was placed in Toronto by the Canadian Association for Equality, CAFE. Now that made one hell of a splash. It wasn't throwing a pebble in a pond. It was like throwing a 2-ton boulder in the pond. I mean, it sent waves clear to the shore and splashing up on the land. It was big. And I mean, we've hit another nerve here. We've kicked over the beehive, wouldn't you say, Nick?
I would. And a big part of the reason for it is that it was placed, it's a perfectly reasonable message placed right in public square. Or right in the public consciousness.
In the public consciousness. It was placed at a street intersection in Toronto. I don't know if it was literally a public square at that location, but metaphorically speaking, it was placed in the public square in order to gain the effect of mutual knowledge. People know about this. Everybody knows about it. Everybody knows that everybody else knows about it. And there's a big difference between a bunch of people knowing something privately in their own heads and not knowing that anybody else knows about it, so that every person there thinks that they are alone in their own heads and they're the only person in the known universe that knows this. even if everybody in the known universe knows it. If everybody in the known universe doesn't know that everybody knows it, it's just as good as if only one person knows it. But once everybody knows about something, and they know that everybody else knows, and then they know that everybody knows that everybody else knows, and push that up to as many cycles as you want, then you've got power. Then you've got a game changer. That's like almost like splitting the atom in the magnitude of social force that can be unleashed. This mutual knowledge, this public square effect. And yeah, it looks like this billboard that they put in Toronto was had that public square effect, but the vehemence of the pushback, of the reaction from the feminist side against the non-feminist side was quite telling and quite revealing. And I mean, when you're taking flack, you're over the target. And boy, are we ever over the target here. But I want to share this article. I'm going to read off parts of it, and we'll talk and fisk it as we go along. There's a fun new billboard sitting on the corner of Davenport and Avenue Road in Toronto. And by the way, the author of this article this is in Vice.com, and the author is Neha Chandrachut. Okay. Anyway, fun new billboard sitting on the corner of Davenport and Avenue Road in Toronto. Rumor has it that if you stare at it long enough, 10 dudes wearing meninist sweatshirts will drop from the sky and yell at you about how the pay gap is a liberal myth. And right there in the text, there is a link to on the phrase meninist sweatshirts, which takes you to a subreddit where they talk about the meninist sweatshirts, and we'll get to that in a couple of minutes here. Yesterday, men's rights activist group, the Canadian Association for Equality, unveiled its latest symptom of delusion in the form of a 4x14-meter billboard. The ad features an enraged woman screaming at a cowering man while telling us in mismatched font, oh, they got to point out the mismatched font there. That's a pretty damning indictment of the billboard, I suppose. Mismatched font.
It's almost as bad as delivering a message with a beard and a knife.
Oh. Okay, well, you definitely, I know what you're talking about there, Nick, and that beard should not have been there. Just the knife alone, not a problem. But yeah, you shouldn't have had that beard there while you were delivering that message, Nick. Mismatched font. Half of domestic violence victims are half, uppercase, half of domestic violence victims are men. No domestic violence shelters are dedicated to us. They're the androcentric narrative voice. It then urges Torontonians to join the conversation with a PR-savvy hashtag, Let's Talk Men. Well, you know, speaking of lies, Nick, you can maybe help me out here, but I believe that the Canadian Association for Equality is not a men's rights activist group. Is that correct?
They are not. They are very explicit. Last time I checked, they were very explicit on their website that they are not a men's rights group and they are not anti-feminist.
Okay, it's there on the website. They've stated they're not a men's rights group and they're not anti-feminist. Well, right away we have a feminist lying here. This Neha Chandrachut. She's either lying consciously, or she just didn't do her homework, didn't do her due diligence, and didn't look into the cafe website to see their very clear statement that they are not a men's rights activist group. So here is a case of somebody that just didn't know any better out of sheer laziness. I mean, that's a possibility. Or then again, maybe she's willfully lying. I don't know. But either way, it doesn't look very good on her. Okay. Let's talk men hashtag. I have not been to that hashtag. Maybe I should go there. My mind raced with questions when I first saw the billboard disseminate across Twitter. Why did what appears to be the eldest Hanson brother agree to be part of this? Does the woman know she's literally berating a pop music icon? I don't know. The reference to eldest Hanson brother escapes me. But I guess that adds strength to the argument to have a little pop culture reference in there.
Oh, okay, Peter Logan, just to get you up to speed, in the late '90s, there was a boy band comprised of three brothers from the Hanson family. They were called the Hansons, the Hanson
Okay.
brothers.
So this makes for a good, strong argument to weave that little, rather obscure pop culture reference.
Apparently, the man on the board looks like the oldest Hanson.
And that's supposed to be significant for some reason, or maybe it's just there to display the author's sophisticated grasp of popular culture. I don't know what the hell they're doing here. Now that whole paragraph could have been left out. You know, the Hanson brothers just being cute and snarky there. The billboard is Cafe's response to Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne's new anti-sexual violence campaign. That is one part of a much-needed update to Ontario's sexual education curriculum. Boy, something always needs a much-needed update in their world. Never enough. Anyway, widely lauded as being progressive and honest, the video entitled "Who Will You Help?" challenges bystanders to intervene in situations where they see examples of sexual violence. And I looked at this video that's embedded in the article, and basically it's a series of short vignettes where some man, some greasy dude is putting some kind of sexual moves on a woman, and at some point he looks up into the camera and says, "Thanks for not telling anybody." Like this is something that just happens every day on a regular basis.
You know what? That whole campaign, it wouldn't bother me if you had a couple of female perpetrators who messed with children or the mentally handicapped.
Just for balance.
Right. I mean, if you are raising awareness, I mean, because sexual assault, sexual molestation, things like that, there is an element of people not knowing how to handle the situation and just kind of keeping their mouths shut because they don't want.
Plus, such things do happen. I mean, nobody denies that the spectrum of things in this world includes, inappropriate sexual hanky-panky.
Right. But there are all kinds of instances where women take advantage of children or mentally or physically handicapped men under their care.
Yes.
And
people with more power will do that to people with less power. This is nothing new in the world.
And part of the power is the fact that there actually is a culture of silence around female perpetration.
And feminism has a lot to do with propagating that culture, perpetuating that culture, and perpetuating that culture.
Expressly by constantly pushing public service announcements that emphasize male perpetration and completely ignore female perpetrators. So yeah, you know what? I mean, the billboard, the message campaign wouldn't be so bad if, and you know what? It's a campaign that's still going on, so they might still throw in some female perpetrators.
No, well, this particular campaign, I guess, is still going on. But if it's not this particular campaign, it's just some other campaign. There's like one big meta campaign. Campaigns come and campaigns go, but the big campaign just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And it never changes. It's like the same old stuff going through the loop over and over and over. It gets very Orwellian after a while. It really does. Anyway, so I watched this video that was embedded in the article, and I think I started to say that I have never seen, personally witnessed anything like the little scenarios that are depicted in the video in my life. Never, ever. Maybe somebody else out there has seen such things or witnessed such things, but I know I have not, and I know that a lot of people would stand up and say pretty much the same thing that I'm saying, that they haven't seen such things. Feminists have a funny way of cherry picking reality. Picking selectively choosing things that really do happen in the world and then putting them under a microscope and then projecting that microscopic image onto a huge billboard in the middle of Times Square, talk about the public square there, and making it the big official reality when it's just a portion of reality, a little scattered pebbles in the mix, if you will. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, well, and then when you confront them on the fact that the types of crimes that they're drawing attention to, like violent crimes against women, are greatly,
or in this case, not even technically crimes at all, but
well, things like violent assault.
Yeah, okay, obvious crimes.
Where they things like that are much more likely to happen to men. Then they'll go into, well, it happens to women, therefore the fact that it happens to women at all means that there's a society-wide problem, despite the fact that it happens to men more. Or they'll say that something like women are more afraid.
Which is a worthless argument, by the way.
Well, so is the first one. I mean, all the arguments are worthless. Again, this comes back to them not giving a fuck about what they're saying being valid.
Plus the fact that they know that they can reliably manipulate other people's feels or shame them into silence with guilting or guilt trip manipulation.
Silence, bribe them, whatever.
Oh, there is a range of methods that they use. The video, which is as ethnically diverse as the landscape of Canada, outlines four common. Yeah, she's got to put in that little tribal thumbprint marker there by adding the phrase ethnically diverse. That situates her as a member of the social justice community, the progressives, okay? Ethnically diverse as the landscape of Canada outlines four common scenarios of sexual violence, including workplace harassment, sexting, and examples of young women being taken advantage of at both a party and a bar. In each scenario, the perpetrator is male and the bystanding audience is told that by remaining complacent, we are helping him and not her. Yes, that mythical monster him, the patriarchy, in other words. This blatant male shaming was simply too much for the good folks at the Canadian Association for Equality, CAFE, who immediately slammed the campaign for being sexist and harmful, which indeed it was. I am not CAFE. I'm not a member of CAFE. I'm not affiliated with CAFE, except, sympathetically perhaps, and yet I say the same thing. I'm not even, like CAFE, I am not a men's rights activist. I'm not a men's rights person. So I guess I have that level of affiliation. But yeah, I agree with CAFE. The campaign is sexist and harmful. In its claim, the organization cites a 2009 Statistics Canada survey that presented almost equal rates of male and female spousal abuse. But the group omitted key information from the same survey, which also states that women were 7 times more likely to fear for their lives during these abusive encounters. Nick, do you see something there in the word fear?
Yeah, they're saying, well, women are much more likely to fear for their lives. I mean,
isn't that the same worthless argument that we brought up a minute ago?
Yeah, well, okay, it might happen to you more, but I fear it more. Who fucking cares what you fear, you little...
We're not caring about your feels. I mean, what is important here, what is at issue here is actual objective danger.
Like, I'm Beetleborg, and I have to tell you, I'm really afraid that a rhinoceros could run through this kitchen that I'm sitting in right now. I'm really afraid, so...
Well, thank goodness you have the Anti-Rhinoceros League, which I know has a chapter there in Edmonton. They're busy keeping the rhinos away so that all good Edmontonians can feel safe from rhinoceri.
I mean, I think I should put up some concrete triangles on either side of my house, but I can't just do it myself. I have to get everybody to feel really, afraid for my personal safety.
Well,
On the basis,
before
on
we get too over the top here,
the,
basically, basically, I mean, they fear violence. That's a totally worthless, pointless, empty statement. If that's meant to advance some kind of an argument or meant to persuade somebody, uh, it didn't work on me. It might work on somebody who is emotion-based, an emotion-based thinker, but it doesn't work on me. Okay, I'm not an emotion-based thinker. I'm so unfeeling. I'm an example of men being out of touch with their feelings, as feminists would tell us. Okay. 7 times more likely to fear for their lives during these abusive encounters. So that's completely worthless. That's a complete distraction from anything of any relevance or any substance. Premier Wynn's campaign is focusing on common situations where Ontarians, particularly young Ontarians, can make a difference. Despite what MRAs would like you to believe, what's an MRA? I don't even know who or what is an MRA. That's such a fuzzy category. Despite what MRAs would like you to believe, women are still the overwhelming victims of technology-based abuse. Okay, here she is shifting the conversation. Suddenly it's talking about people talking mean to you over a computer. And before it was about domestic violence, and the author was standing on weak ground, so she shifted over to talking about this technology-based abuse.
yeah, technology-based abuse. No, I'm afraid men are still the majority of people tasered, shot, and stabbed.
I gotta say it. I gotta say it.
Yes.
I don't often break into the show, but I just gotta put my 2 cents in.
Yeah.
A lot of these poor women are sitting at home behind their locked doors in their gated communities with kids playing outside, and they're staring at this computer screen. And this is equated to domestic abuse if somebody disagrees with them from thousands of miles away. And the reason why is because they're sitting in their domicile when it happens. They're perfectly safe,
Oh, very
upper middle
clever.
class domicile. That's what the problem is. So, anytime one of these poor widow creatures sees anything they disagree with online, inside a perfectly safe physical environment, they are they have just experienced a horrendous abuse.
Well, basically, when some individual person addressing them individually says something they don't like, or maybe insults them, possibly in many cases because they brought it on themselves. I mean, who knows what technology-based abuse really is? It's such a totally woolly category. We don't know what they're talking about. Uh, oh, technology-based abuse. It goes on. It adds workplace harassment. Again, what is that? And date rape. 3 of the 4 major scenarios highlighted in Who Will You Help? All right. Well, again, date rape is not the same as domestic violence. The fact that date rape, or should I say rape, full stop, happens does not alter or have any bearing upon the pretty well established fact now that men and women commit domestic violence equally. That men are not 95% the perpetrators and women 5% the perpetrators, but that they pretty much do it on a 50-50 split. And shifting the focus over to things like date rape and technology-based abuse doesn't really alter that. But see, this is how feminists operate. When they're losing, when they're getting behind the game, when the game's getting ahead of them, what do? They grab the game board and flip it over on the floor so you don't see where the game was at anymore, and then they set up the game pieces in a different way, in a way they think they can win. And when they get behind that game, then they repeat the cycle over. This is how feminism operates. And it's all of a piece with feminists lying, because it's all about fudging and obfuscating the truth any way they can, just to maintain their advantage over you. Folks, this is feminism. Oh boy, it's absolutely important not to diminish the experience of men who have suffered domestic violence. Oh, good of her to mention that. But nowhere in Wynn's campaign does it do that. No, I'm sure it doesn't diminish their experience. It probably doesn't say anything about it, and it just continues the libel against men. It's widely acknowledged by many feminists in particular that male abuse victims face a unique set of barriers imposed by a culture that still values hypermasculinity and teaches men not to be victims. So here we have them bringing up the feminist philosophical talking point somehow to get feminism off the hook for the fact that feminism has lied outrageously and slandered half the human race for half a century now, teaching that men are violent animals beating up on women all over the place, and that they do it to maintain the power of the patriarchy right there in the middle of hearth and home. That's the story feminism has been propagating for years, and somehow this author just dances and slip slides around that. So you got to nail these people down. All right. In a statement to the National Post, Ontario Minister for Women's Issues Tracy MacCharles echoed the same sentiment and went one step further to assure critics that the Ontario government does not fund the support services for male survivors of sexual abuse program. Oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute, I misread that. Went one step further to assure critics that the Ontario government does fund the support services for male survivors of the sexual abuse program. Predictably, though, none of these larger cultural concerns about challenging masculinity are being addressed by the men's rights movement, which instead chooses to focus its dialogue on painting men as possibly the saddest people ever. Nick, that last little bit that I read, you hear the lie hissing like a serpent deep inside a woodpile with that?
Yeah, the men's rights movement, they're not focusing on the feminist goal of re-examining masculinity.
No, at the men's rights movement, but which, by the way, I don't belong to. But as far as I know about the men's rights movement, they're not interested in promoting feminist categories and feminist talking points. I mean, the men's rights movement, they're not feminists. They don't talk like feminists. They don't.
But they are. But the writer of this article this is a trick that they pull. I don't know if it can just be called assumption on their part.
Assumption or ignorance, yeah. Which
or no, but I mean, the tactic, like promoting the assumption, or just talking about their feminist assumptions as the default, like whenever they
trapping everybody else in their feminist assumptions. They just don't realize that there is a world beyond feminism. There's people out there who don't talk as feminists and think as feminists.
Yeah, whenever they tell us that we're not acting on the bigger picture, or we're not dealing with real problems, the bigger picture and the real problems are feminist targets, always. And
the bigger picture is the picture feminism is painted.
Yeah, and it's by us taking an active, non-feminist approach to problems that we see, that makes those problems invalid, irrelevant, annoying, a waste of time.
And among the problems that we see, that we act upon in our way, top of the list is feminism itself.
Yeah.
Now, I know a member of the men's rights movement talking in the androcentric narrative voice is more along the lines of the injustices being committed against men, and that's fine. Myself, not being a member of the men's rights movement, my focus is more on the wrongs being committed by feminism, not wrongs being done to men, but wrongs being committed by feminism. It's like I'm looking over feminism's shoulder and watching feminism's hands, moving around doing things, and I'm calling it as I see it, and I'm calling it out. And I see that feminism is doing bad things. I'm putting feminism in the hot seat for its crimes, for its wrongs. So it's not men's rights, but it's feminism's wrongs. It's really approaching the same problem, but just from a little bit different angle, a little bit different optic. Anyway, yeah, feminists, they think everything is about them. They make every conversation about feminism, or a department of feminism in some way, a product of feminism, or an expression, or an excrescence of feminism. And God, I wish I could get away from all these excrescences of feminism. Don't they realize that there are a lot of people in the world who are not feminist and would like to converse in non-feminist terms, and even converse with a feminist in non-feminist terms, if such a thing is possible?
No, they don't know that. This is something that I realized long ago, long before I ever heard of the men's rights movement, long before I ever heard the term social justice warrior, back in, even before 2005. I was raised in a secular household, and then when I was about 15 in the year 2000, I got swept up into charismatic Christianity. And I looked around, and I mean, even when I was among their ranks, I looked at them and I compared them to my own left-wing upbringing, and I was very quickly able to realize that the left-wing social justice environment I was raised in was exactly like the Christian environment I was doing in terms of dogma and offense at unbelief.
Nick, I can't resist adding this to the conversation, but Westboro Baptist Church.
What about them?
Well,
okay.
Any similarities between the social justice, progressive, feminist community and the Westboro Baptist Church that you can see?
No, I love the Westboro Baptist Church. Those
you do.
They are champions of freedom of speech. No matter what you might think about the stupid shit they're saying, they're out there saying it every day of the year.
They keep the frontier way out there, don't they?
They do. And what is it? I may not agree with the word.
I'm not so bad. Go talk to the Westboro Baptist Church over there. Leave me alone.
Well, but the thing is, the reason that I will not compare social justice warriors to the Westboro Baptist Church is what I was driving at when I was talking about being involved in Christianity, is that the Christian element understands that they are seen as crackpots. The Westboro Baptist Church capitalizes on them being seen as crackpots. Right? They go out with signs and say God hates fags, and then when anybody challenges them on it, they can point to the part of the Bible that is they are simply expressing.
I'd like to see them do a campaign that says God loves sluts.
Well, you could, I guess, you could bring up the part where Jesus pardoned the adulteress.
But who is without sin may cast the first stone. That one.
Yeah, that part. But the thing is, social justice warriors. That's the difference between Christians and social justice warriors. Is that like young Earth creationists, and even TJ, the amazing atheist, pointed this out. Even young Earth creationists who believe that the Earth was created 6,000 years ago, they will at least attempt to come up with some kind of rational scientific justification for believing what they believe. Social justice warriors just get angry at you because they don't have the understanding that Christians do that they are not the world. They honestly think that they are speaking on behalf of everybody when they say their shit. So that's why I remember when John the Other did a voice from Men Radio, and he would often compare people's reactions to a red pill person, like this episode from of the original Star Trek, where they landed in this town where everybody dressed like it was the 19th century, and they all worshipped a computer god called Landru, and they would be all friendly and vacant-minded when they would talk with people, and then as soon as it became clear that they were talking with someone who did not worship the computer god Landru, then they would get all afraid, and they would say, "You are not of Landru. You are not of the body." And that's exactly what you get with these people. With the Westboro Baptist Church and with Christians, they're quite prepared to meet people who are not of the body. These people are not.
Well, pardon me, the social justice warriors and the feminists, they think they are the world. Pardon me. I just got through with a coughing spell here when I turned the microphone off. My voice is not up to par. Well, the feminists and the social justice warriors, they think they are the world. Or if they don't think they totally are the world, they think they have a right to be the world. They think that it's just a matter of time before they are the world, before they become the world, before they push everybody and everything else out of the world.
And that, by the way, is a cornerstone of Christian and Muslim mentality. Is that they are working towards a time where there will be no non-Muslims, and there will be no non-Christians on the face of the earth, and that's when you'll have heaven on earth.
Well, that is very much the mentality of the feminists and their political affiliates. On the left, it's like, we've all heard it by now. If you're not a feminist, you're a bigot. Okay? And that's why it is so useful to keep pushing the envelope with the category of non-feminism or non-feminist, because that puts the whole conversation right on the knife edge where it needs to be. Okay? It's not aggressive to just quietly stand up and say, I'm not a feminist. What can they do? They can either leave you in peace and leave you alone, or they can make an aggressive move against you. And either way, they lose. If they leave you alone, then you go on living your life, and they have to accommodate you and share the world with you, which defeats their purpose. On the other hand, if they move against you aggressively, even though you are not an aggressor, you are clearly non-aggressive, then they put themselves in the position of being an aggressor, which doesn't look good. So all of this is among the benefits that you derive from simply categorizing yourself, classifying yourself as non-feminist. Boy, my voice is really not made for radio right now. Anyway, Nick, anything you want to say?
No, I got nothing in particular I'd like to add to that.
Okay, and not only is my voice not up to par, but somebody's doing landscaping not far outside my window, and I think you can hear the weed running.
I can't hear anything.
Oh, that's good. Anyway, so we had a couple more things here on tap. Oh my God, I'm going to have to call this episode short maybe. We had a couple of other things on tap here for this episode. A couple of links. And these were link number 2 day one of wearing my Meninist sweatshirt at high school, I think it says. Anyway, this is something I think most of us have heard about by now, the Meninist movement. This is a little bit of autobiographical material from a young man, a high school student, who wore his Meninist sweatshirt to school, and he got all kinds of reactions from his schoolmates as he walked around. Most of the reactions were negative or hostile. Some were supportive, but of course you got to expect that when you're a pioneer. Pioneers have it rough when you go against the grain, when you stand up against the consensus of society, the consensus of the culture. Boy, you're going to get some pushback, and it's not going to be pretty. And there is the link. I recommend that everybody go and read that. And let's see, what happens to him here? Several stares, primarily from women, stares of disgust. Overheard a writer for the newspaper call me an asshole to her friends. People shaking their heads in disgust. Well, that's what happened. I salute this young man for his courage, and I think I'm getting some noise outside my window now. It might be audible over the microphone, it might not be.
Okay, well, let me talk. Turn off your microphone and let me talk.
All right.
What you're describing with this young man, it sounds a lot like when I would walk down Jasper Avenue at lunch during lunchtime with my mensrightsedmonton.com sandwich board. When you walk down the street with a presumably pro-male message that you're broadcasting, people get disgusted. People get angry with you. Upon seeing the words mensrightsedmonton.com, a lot of oftentimes you have middle-aged women saying something like, "Men already have enough rights." I mean, if they said anything at all, they would. But men have enough rights. Men have too many rights. Any kind of male advocacy is automatically viewed with hostility. So him and his Meninist T-shirt, particularly in the climate now, where feminists know damn well that their ideology is under attack.
Yeah, they know they're on thin ice, and it's getting thinner.
Yeah, and so maybe 2 years ago, if this kid walked around with a Meninist shirt, maybe he would have gotten some laughs from the same feminists who are now really pissed off.
Well, it's hard to say exactly.
Well, no. What I mean is, I'm trying to say, like, that's the same reason Men's Rights Edmonton took off the way it did. If there wasn't a burgeoning men's rights movement online that everybody knew, or that all the feminists knew about, if they had seen mensrightsedmonton.com stickers 2 years prior to when they did, they probably wouldn't have made a big deal about it. Right? But being that we live in the situation that we do now, where the situation is so tense and so irritated, walking down the street in a Voice for Men T-shirt, or a Men's Rights Edmonton T-shirt, or a Meninist T-shirt, or whatever it is, will, in and of itself, it will cause people to flip their shit. Because of the context that the unignorable nature of the activated non-feminist sector provides. People are very sensitive to any expression of that, particularly when it's done balls out in the public square.
Well, feminists are sensitive to that because it's a direct threat to their power. You're just standing up and challenging them by doing almost nothing, really. I mean, yeah. What's putting something on a sweatshirt? It's very little, and yet it's so much.
But that really speaks to just how totalitarian, just how far they've gotten with their totalitarian agenda.
It's the politics of gesture, as I like to call it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, something so slight as to wear a T-shirt that says hashtag Meninist gets everybody's fucking hackles up. Like,
and opens you up to terrible accusations for which there is really no evidence.
that goes to show just what kind of hegemony has been achieved by this particular ideology.
And of course, getting back to the earlier theme, one cannot help but wonder how much they are aware of their own lying, and how much of it is done consciously and willfully,
Well,
or how
okay,
much of it is just a knee-jerk reaction.
okay, when someone who speaks the truth, if someone stood up in front of the class and said 2 + 2 = 4, and someone disagreed with them, do you think the person who said 2 + 2 = 4 would get annoyed, or do you think they would laugh?
Oh, they would laugh.
Do you
Certainly.
think they would get threatened? Do you think that they would call in they would release the fucking hounds?
Well, assuming that the 2 + 2 = 5 culture had not already been established for years and become hegemonic, I would assume that the 2 + 2 = 4 person would just laugh.
But you see what I'm saying?
I do. I do.
That I can stand up and I can say I can speak the truth, and I'm not bothered when people disagree with me because I know they're full of shit.
I'm not bothered that there's people out there who believe the earth is flat.
I'm not. I am not. I mean, I have, if anybody knows about my history, they know that I have been bothered by by various by assertions made by various religious groups. But now I can confidently say that I am not. I am not bothered by any prediction of Ragnarok or the great juju coming from the sea.
Or the theory that dinosaurs wore hats.
Yeah, yeah. None of this
What bothers me is not the people saying that dinosaurs wore hats, but people who sometimes want to monopolize your time and explain to you, prove that dinosaurs wore hats, or demand to know, aggressively get in your face and demand to know why you don't believe that dinosaurs wore hats.
Yeah, or people who block lectures that do a very good job of dissuading people from the notion that dinosaurs wore hats. I would take issue
Or
with
that there's something wrong with feminism or women's studies on campus.
yeah people who pull fire alarms, bang hockey sticks.
And say, I'm a feminist and I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah, these people. Oh, sorry.
Hello, Nick, you still there? I'm guessing that Nick muted his microphone for a
I
minute.
guess so. He must have, yeah, he must have used a manual mute on his end.
Just taking care of the dog there, if the dog wants to be let out. Anyway, my voice is now recovered. I can talk normally again. There's no noise outside my window. Let's see, where were we at? That was cue number 2 about the young man who wore the Meninist t-shirt, or sweatshirt rather, at school and got a whole lot of flack from people in school. You know what they say about flack? If you're catching any, you're over the target. And now this was, of course, Meninist is suggestive of men's rights, the men's rights perspective. Whereas some of us are taking more of a feminism's wrongs perspective, and I am one of those. So a person could suppose, I suppose a person could wear a shirt that says, I am not a feminist, and walk around their school or their workplace or wherever, and you would get certain reactions. And I'm just curious to know how those reactions might differ from, say, the meninist shirt or something of a men's rights nature. Because really, just saying that you're not a feminist makes a different statement than saying you are for men's rights. And I realize that a lot of people out there in the general public might not be sophisticated enough yet to draw that distinction, but there is a distinction to be made, and it's a very important one. You know, just saying that you're not a feminist is, we already know, seen as provocative or inflammatory by some people. You know, that raises their hackles when they see.
I would one instance that I would point to. Who was that British politician who refused to wear a T-shirt that said "This is what a feminist looks like"?
I know Obama. Didn't Obama do that?
No, Obama wore it. Obama wore the T-shirt. No, there was a British politician who said that he would not wear a T-shirt, and then it later came out that those same T-shirts were being made by dirt poor Indian women working living 15 to a room.
I think it was. I don't think it was India. I think it was in. Might have been Mozambique. I'm not sure.
James, do you know the British politician we're talking about?
Are we talking about Harriet Harman?
Who's this?
We're talking about the T-shirt scandal in England, where there was a series of T-shirts that were presented, that were put out that said this is what a feminist looks like, and it later came out that these same T-shirts were being made by women in a sweatshop in.
There's a couple MPs over there that were wearing them.
Yeah, Harriet Harman was one. Harriet Harman is not a man.
But specifically, there was a male politician who refused to wear the shirt, and he came under fire. Do you know who that was?
Yes, I remember. Okay, so the story's coming back to me now. I know I don't know the guy's name, but boy, talk about taking a stand and standing your ground. And
yeah,
that paid off for him.
Yeah, it did pay off for him, but that's an example of what you're talking about, being a high-profile non-feminist. He didn't come out as an anti-feminist. He didn't say, I am against feminism. He just refused to wear a fucking shirt.
He didn't even come out specifically as a non-feminist.
Yeah.
Although he strongly implied this.
Yeah, but the thing is, when they demand that you wear the uniform or you're in trouble, just remaining neutral, simply remaining as you were, is interpreted by them as an act of aggression. That is how crazy this is.
It's interpreted by them as an act of aggression, and yet they are putting themselves in a position which is not, in the long run, tenable.
It's like when guys rob you on the street. I don't know if you've ever been robbed at knife point or anything, but
I had somebody try it one time. They didn't get far.
Well, I got robbed twice, and then the third time people tried to rob me, I smacked one in the head.
I had some guy in the New York City subway that just audaciously walked up and just stuck his hand in my pocket and started digging around for change, and then walked off again.
Anyway, a common tactic is for them to get angry with you for not just giving things up automatically, and that getting angry with you and treating your neutrality and your own self-defense as though it were aggression against them. It actually registers in the mind. It registers in the mind of polite people who get by in the world by not wanting to make other people angry, and so they are
in the minds of polite people. That's a good point.
So they're not conscious. They're not consciously trying to They just want to keep the peace. And so when these people come along and tell them that they are the aggressor by not doing what they want, they tap into a certain part of their psyche.
Well, they tap into something. Well, I think the main point to be pulled out of all this is that by attacking you for your non-committal, non-aggressive stance, they are very clearly and undoubtedly the aggressors, and there's no question about it. And to put yourself in the position of the aggressor is a weak strategy in the long run. Now, by being the aggressor, you can obtain a certain victory in the short run, but in the judgment of history, in the long run, people will look back at you and say, there was an aggressor. There was the bad guy. There was the one who was behaving wrongly.
Yeah. There was the person who refused to be converted to Islam, Catholicism, feminism, whatever it is. Right, and you'll look back and you'll see the person, you'll see the party who took issue with someone just for minding their own business and just doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm. And this is a position which, if properly understood, is a source of great power. When your enemy is the aggressor, pardon me, when your enemy is the aggressor, and it's clear that your enemy is the aggressor, eventually the truth will out. This is going to work its way to the surface, and in the judgment of history, in the judgment of posterity, everybody's going to know this. Everybody's going to see this. Eventually the truth will out. So, folks, if you're not a feminist, don't be afraid to say that you are not a feminist. You can leave anti-feminism to somebody else if you want, or if you want, you can just go full out and be an anti-feminist. But if you do that, you're still not a feminist, right? Have you ever met an anti-feminist who was a feminist? That's a pretty strange kind of bird, okay? But to be a non-aggressive, non-feminist, and to high profile yourself as such, puts the other side in a tight spot, puts them in a bind. It's like they've got to respond to you in some way, and if they do, it's almost always bound to be aggressive. I mean, it gets their hackles up, and aggression soon comes into it. All right. We've gone to almost an hour and a half now. I don't know if we're going to take the full 2 hours or not, but let's look into something else on our link list here. This would be cue number 3. Interesting stuff here. I'm just going to read this off to you quickly because it is interesting. This is an interview that was done by NPR. It was printed online. Who fails to pay child support? Moms at a higher rate than dads. Boy, does that throw a mud pie in the face of the feminist narrative. Well, the number of dollars of unpaid child support each year in the U.S. is well into the billions. NPR's Rachel Martin speaks with data expert Mona Chalabi of 538.com about the numbers. So let's see, this starts off with a bunch of gibberish that I don't understand. And then it says, time for some number crunching from our data expert Mona Chalabi from 538.com. And she has given us this number of the week. Unidentified woman, 14.3 billion. I guess that's, I don't know what that means. Anyway, on to the interview. Martin, that is the total amount of unpaid child support in the United States in the year 2011. Mona Chalabi joins us from our studios in New York to unpack this number. Hey, Mona. Hi, Rachel. So that's a huge amount of unpaid child support. What do we know about how many parents are affected and who are they? Well, we actually know quite a bit. So the spreadsheet I'm looking at here comes from the Census Bureau in 2011. That's the most recent year that we have. And they provide a pretty specific definition of custodial parents. Those are the parents that are taking care of their kids while the other parent lives someplace else. Okay? And we can see which of those parents have been awarded child support and whether they're actually getting the payments that they're due. And it also tells us, and this might actually be more important, about the race, marital status, and gender of those parents. And I started off by looking at gender because a reader had actually sent me an email saying that he thought moms are worse at paying child support than dads. Moms were worse. That kind of flies in the face of what we presume to be a common understanding of this, right? Yeah, it's a pretty surprising assumption. And what's even more surprising is the fact that this reader was right. He was right. So what evidence did you find to support that? Yeah, I was surprised too. So in 2011, we found that 32% of custodial fathers didn't receive 32%, okay. 32% of custodial fathers didn't receive any of the child support that had been awarded to them, compared to 25% of custodial moms. Okay, 32% of custodial fathers didn't get their child support from the mom, whereas 25% of custodial moms were missing out from the non-custodial dads. All right. So who in terms of percentage is more likely to be a deadbeat here? Anyway, so now the first and most obvious thing to say about all of this is that there are way more custodial moms in America than custodial dads. Okay, we know this already. They actually outnumber them 5-1. And on top of that, moms are also more likely than dads to get awarded child support. Old talking point here. In the first place. Exactly, yeah, but still, the data shows that moms are more likely than dads to get at least some of the child support that they're due. It's not a huge difference in percentage terms, but it's still kind of counterintuitive. At least it was to me. Okay, let's stop and digest this a little bit. Apparently, deadbeat moms are a thing. Who'd have thunk it? Deadbeat moms are a thing. Nick, are you there?
I am here.
Does that strike you in any way at all?
Uh,
Not only are deadbeat moms a thing, but apparently there's more of them than there are deadbeat dads.
well, no. Those numbers don't prove that there's more of them than there are deadbeat dads. It proves that a higher percentage of custodial fathers are getting screwed over than a percentage of custodial mothers. But that
which I think points to more of the deadbeat phenomenon.
no, well, okay,
not that I'm out to get women per se. Okay.
no, but the thing is, your methodology is still flawed because there are, I mean, there might be a higher percentage of male custodial parents getting screwed over, and that is significant. But even a lesser percentage of female custodial parents getting screwed over is still going to be more single moms getting screwed over than single dads, because there are so many more custodial mothers instead of custodial fathers. So a larger percentage of custodial fathers getting screwed over doesn't mean an overall larger number.
Okay, well, Nick, I think you may be right about that. I'd have to work that through and work that out. But still, what we are seeing here does fly in the face of the feminist narrative. They want to paint men as bad. They want to paint men.
Yes, yeah, they want
the bad narrative is a big piece of that.
Yeah, they want the title of deadbeat to be gender specific, and it's not. There are scumbag mothers out there too who owe money and leave responsibilities with the fathers as well. So again, this is not a crime where just men or just women do it. This is a crime, and and punishments for committing this crime should be applied across the board.
Evenly,
Even if there are more men or more women committing it, it doesn't matter. The crime.
One offender, one punishment, and I think I'm what you said a minute ago, Nick, is starting to settle in for me. The fact that there are more custodial mothers than fathers. Right, I see your point about the deadbeats. We're talking about total numbers. Now, within the context of this survey, within the boundaries, the narrow, constricted boundaries of this survey, yeah, there are more women skipping out on their child support payments than men. But I think what this points to is that as far as the inherent capacity to be a deadbeat parent, be it mom or dad, is no greater for men than it is for women, and that both sexes are capable of it, and that there's just no reason to put all of that onus on men, and that the trope of the deadbeat dad is basically got to go. Now, we don't need to hear that phrase being tossed around anymore. And politicians and people like that who go spouting off rhetoric about deadbeat dads, they ought to get an earful from somebody. They ought to be harshly disciplined, chastised in the public square for talking that way. Not that this is going to happen anytime soon, but really in an ideal world, that's how it should be. And yeah, go ahead.
Not that we're working towards an ideal world, but for those who are
I wouldn't mind an ideal world if it was possible.
For those who are pessimistic about our ability to accomplish this, we are accomplishing it. We have seen massive gains in the last few years alone. The accomplishment is going to take time, and the first thing we want to focus on is shifting public consensus, shifting the zeitgeist, right?
Shifting the paradigm ultimately.
Yeah, once public opinion has been shifted, then we can start applying pressure to to systems of law and things like that.
That's when we get down to repealing VAWA, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, but as you can see from the way that people cover this sort of thing in their news articles, there is a buffer of public approval towards these things. And right now the game is we are challenging that public approval, and they are safeguarding it. And I mean, they wouldn't be safeguarding it if it weren't valuable and if it weren't under threat.
It's valuable, of course, because somebody is benefiting from it.
Yeah, valuable to them.
In a significant way. Always ask the question, cui bono?
Yeah, who benefits? It's valuable to them. It's got negative value to us. We want to see it. We want to see the status quo destroyed. I mean, not to sound like a social justice warrior, but we do want to see a change in the way people think about certain things, for good and all.
And when we say we, of course, we mean we who are members of the biological class male through no choice of our own or no fault of our own, and not to beat the men's rights drum, but one cannot help being a member of the biological class, male or female, as the case may be. And as an individual, you really can't help being aware of that.
No, but there are plenty of men who don't care because they see the world. They understand that men are either pets or meat, and they want to be pets.
There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons why various men would want to play capos, to the camp guards, so to speak, or what shall we say, lackeys to the warden. But anyway, I lost track. Where was I?
I lost track as well.
We're both a couple of derailed trains here, aren't we? Anyway, yes, the feminist narrative is, in the long run, anything that's negative or hostile toward men, because, of course, the feminist project is to increase the power of women. And one of the central ways, if not the central way, that they accomplish this is by running men and maleness into the ground. And I say that not as a member of any men's rights movement. I say that as a simple observer of the human situation. I'm looking at the world and I am seeing that, yes, this is what is happening. That's the standpoint from which I speak. I see it in terms of feminism's wrongs. This is feminism committing a wrong against the world, against men, yes, certainly, but ultimately against everybody. Because you can't poison half of the well. You're poisoning the entire well. No such thing as poisoning half of a well, and there's no such thing as poisoning half of the human race or attacking half of the human race, since we live in a social ecology, and the repercussions spread out, the ramifications spread out everywhere, and it's going to come down hard on everybody sooner or later, often in ways that we can't even predict. So, we're talking feminism's wrongs here. And as a member of the biological class male, as an individual who happens to belong to that biological class, I'm looking out for number one. I have a very selfish, individualistic motive for not liking what feminism is doing to men, for the very simple reason that I happen to be a man myself. So I'm not looking out for men, I'm looking out for me, but I'm also looking out for the whole world, because I know this is going to have a disastrous effect on the whole world. And if the world goes down the tubes, it's going to suck me right along with it. So I'm looking out for number one every step of the way, because, well, I'm just such a selfish bastard. And I think I'm about ready to wrap the show up. Nick, anything more you want to say?
No, I got nothing else. I would like everybody to, I guess if I've got time to ramble on here, you've seen what's gone on so far between myself and Barbarossa, correct?
Yeah, I've been watching it.
Yeah, I would encourage everybody to watch. First of all, the video that kicked everything off. I am anti-feminist. That's it. On my YouTube channel, Men's Rights Edmonton, which was responded to by Barbarossa, and then I responded to that with a video called "The Judean People's Front." And then he responded to that with a video called "Re the Judean People's Front." I just want to take every opportunity that I can to plug that current YouTube back and forth, because there is a little bit of a civil war going on in the manosphere, and I tried to ignore it for as long as possible, but now I think it's in a lot of people's best interest to bone up on the conflict. learn as much as you can about it.
Even if
Yeah,
you're not part of the manosphere, because the ramifications are reaching beyond the manosphere.
yeah. This schism.
Like, for example, me, I'm not part of the manosphere, and yet I feel that I am linked into this.
Yeah, well, this schism. This is going to have just like the difference between Catholic and Protestant has meaning for people who are neither Catholic or Protestant.
Mm-hmm.
People who are involved in this, people who are not involved in this, just check it out. And as with everything, I encourage people to do their homework and get it right. Whatever you are, be a good one. If you whatever position you have, make sure it's backed up by the fact, because that's usually what I like to play on in my video takedowns of people, is just demonstrating that they are coming to they are making the argument that they do because they are informed by bullshit, and they would have done better to check their facts first. That's
Or
why
in,
people.
or in
That's why
some
people.
cases, as we have established, they're flat out lying through their teeth.
Well, and that's another thing. If you can, talk reasonably and publicly to people as possible. Talk as reasonably to people in public as possible, and that can go a long way. But when it gets to the point that they are not being reasonable themselves, that they have no interest in being reasonable, it becomes unreasonable to be reasonable with them. So, an example of what I'm talking about would be if you go over me at the 2014 Slut Walk here in Edmonton, where I'm speaking with a young lady. I'm speaking with a young lady with short blonde hair, and I'm talking about the importance of one taking responsibility for their own safety, and I'm talking about the responsibility that I have when I go onto a job site to wear a hard hat and CSA approved work boots. And this young lady is of a different opinion. And then so she asks me for some literature. She asked me for what I'm talking about. I hand her the literature, and then the fact that I've handed her the literature isn't enough. She wants me to tell her verbally what's in the literature that she has in her own hand. And upon that point,
Lazy.
yeah, and that right there is when you can tell that they're not interested in having an honest discussion. And so,
Or at least not the discussion that you're trying to have with them. They want to have some other discussion.
yeah, and so when they, you can argue in good faith up until you've satisfied yourself that they are not arguing in good faith, and then troll on to freedom, my friends.
Roll on to freedom.
Just
That's a keeper. Thank you for adding that to our stock of language, Nick. Roll on to freedom.
when they show that they're not interested in having an honest discussion, then all bets are off.
And good faith is no longer necessary. Is it necessary? Let me raise as a philosophical point. Are you under any obligation to act in good faith with somebody who's making war upon you?
No, you're not.
I would say not.
Doing it, they stress propriety and politeness because they want to have the appearance of someone who is acting in good faith when they're not. And
they're assuming a pseudo moral high ground.
That is so insidious that it deserves to be met with trolling. I'm sorry.
Sometimes trolling is the only appropriate response. If you don't like being trolled,
the example that I was giving of me at the 2014 Slut Walk, I'm giving a very, if you watch the video, You can tell that I'm giving this young woman a very solid argument, and I'm letting her speak her mind, and I'm observing all the rules of propriety for a debate. Then, when she goes off the rails and she starts screaming about people whistling at her when she was 10 years old, she was obviously just applying a temper tantrum as an argument, and that's when I said I love rape. Right there in front of everybody, and we put that in the video. That made it past the cutting floor. Because a statement like "I love rape" is, it's so crude, and you're assuming you're taking what they're implying about you, and you're just assuming that character, so you can show everyone just how ludicrous what they're saying is. And you're not, and you're perfectly justified in using them as a tool, because they are not treating you as a person whose argument matters.
Well, I mean, they're using you as a tool in their
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
and in so doing, they are acting the part of the aggressor. And the very basic rule is that the aggressor sets the terms of engagement.
Agreed.
One is entitled to respond to aggression with a proportionate aggression.
Yeah, and the thing is, in the way I do it, I mean, I don't even respond with aggression. I respond with jokes.
Well, actually, Nick, that in a way is a kind of aggression.
It
Okay.
is aggression, but it's not nearly as invasive as what they do.
Well, invasive or not, I mean, in this context, in this formula, okay, that is what we call aggression. Okay, you're not entirely playing by any kind of Queensberry rules.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah, just a rule of thumb to keep in mind, um, is that you should remain civil until, and even give them a couple passes, right? Let them be uncivil a couple times. Keep on being civil. Let them be uncivil a couple of times, and then
Because they're giving you evidence that you can use against them.
yeah, exactly. And then eventually you can go, look, I've been civil long enough. You have not been civil. Now I'm going to be a bit of a dick myself.
Okay. Sounds like a very good procedural template you've laid out there, Nick. I like it. I like it a lot.
So I would like to remind everyone to check out my YouTube channel. It's two words. First word, men's rights, all one word. Second word, Edmonton. That's my YouTube channel. Check out my website, mensrightsedmonton.com. Follow me on Twitter at mensrightsed. And if you are in if you are in the Edmonton area, or if you know someone in the Edmonton area who's into men's rights, or if you're in the Edmonton area and you're a feminist and you want to yell at someone, just drop me a line through the contact us section at mensrightsedmonton.com. I am always up for a conversation. God bless and good night.
Okay. I'm going to plug me a little bit here. Go to cfproject.blog.com. That would be cue number 4. cfproject.blog.com. That is the Poison Manifesto. A lot of what we talk about here will begin to make more sense to you if you plow through that 9-page document. The Poison Manifesto at cfproject.blog.com, or just look at cue number 4 on the link list. And I don't repeat this enough, but we have an email address here at the Vanguard Report. If you want to get a hold of us, you want to speak your mind for any reason, you want to send us love letters, you want to send us hate letters, whatever's on your mind, you got something to say, that's cue number 5. And the email address, I'll read that out for you. It's Vanguard Report, one word, vanguardreport@usa.com. Pretty easy to remember. Vanguard Report at USA.com. Q number 5 on your list. You want to say something to us, drop us a line. That's our email address. And I think we've just about filled up the 2 hours here, maybe not quite, but I think it's time to call it a day. It's been an interesting show. I've enjoyed it. I hope everybody else has as well. So, before we sign out, remember, never forget, feminism is what we say it is. That's post-argumentalism in a nutshell. Feminism is what we say it is. Feminism doesn't get to tell us what feminism is anymore. When a feminist says, look in the dictionary, there's a definition for feminism, you come back at them and you say, no, that's just the feminist definition of feminism. Okay? From here on out, the game is different, folks. Feminism is what we say it is. We're the rest of the world. We are the world, really, more than they are. They're not the world. And it's our turn to tell feminism what feminism is. So, one more time, feminism is what we say it is. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up. So, everybody, come back next week. That will be episode number 43 of the Vanguard Report, and I look forward to that episode. And we'll see you all then. So until then, everybody, bye-bye.